There were no panties in the laundry. Not a single one. I stood there for an absurd amount of time, spinning the drum like the missing lace would somehow materialize out of static. But it didn't. 3 shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, 1 bath towel, and 0 underwear. 0 explanation. Linnea always did laundry Sunday nights. Religiously. It was her ritual: wine, reality TV, and washing everything down to her gym socks. She said it helped her reset. Fresh week, fresh me. This Monday morning, the hamper was empty, but the basket held nothing personal, nothing intimate, nothing she actually wore. Just decoys. That's when I checked the bathroom. Toothbrush, gone. Her purple toothbrush, the one with the cracked handle she refused to replace, not there. Not in the cup. Not behind the mirror. Not in the travel bag. I didn't panic. I reasoned. She probably took it for a night at her mom's. Or Grace's. Or someone's. She mentioned something, right? I must have forgotten. I do that. I forget things when she's talking because I'm too busy wondering when she stopped looking at me like I mattered. I texted her. Did you take your toothbrush with you? Weird question, I know. No answer. I waited 2 hours. Still no answer. That's when I noticed the charger missing from her side of the bed. And the gold ring she wears when she doesn't want people to think she's married. That one was also gone. But her wedding band? Still on the dresser. Like it was too heavy to carry. At exactly 2:16 p.m., I opened our shared cloud drive. She had uploaded nothing. Not a photo, not a note, not even the usual screenshots of inspirational Pinterest quotes she clings to when she's anxious. It was as if she'd been erased. By herself. And here's the worst part. I didn't call the cops. I didn't call her mom. I didn't even try to track her phone. You'd think I'd be worried. But no. I just stood in the hallway, watching the shadows change on the wall, whispering to myself like a lunatic. If she's alive, she's cheating. If she's dead, then she never loved me anyway. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. By morning, I had already packed. By evening, I had already left. And when she finally came back, exactly 24 hours after she left, she called my name like nothing had happened. But all she got was silence. Because I wasn't there anymore. She knocked. That's what cracked me open. Not a key turning. Not a slow creak of the door. She knocked. 3 gentle taps, like she was a guest in her own life. My legs went cold just hearing it. I wasn't far, just across the street, watching through the grimy blinds of room 107 at the Cradle Inn. I'd left earlier that day, around noon, right after I hid something inside the drawer of my nightstand. Something I wanted her to find. A letter, sure, but more than that, a mirror she wasn't ready to look into. At 7:43 p.m., I watched her black Civic pull into the driveway. She didn't rush out of the car. She sat there for a while, staring at the steering wheel like it owed her an apology. Then she grabbed her bag, not the same one she left with, and walked up to the door. That knock. Like she didn't know what version of me would answer. Maybe she thought I'd be furious. Or silent. Or crying. She didn't expect emptiness. She tried the handle after the second round of knocking. Still locked. She called my name. Twice. The second time, her voice cracked. But it was subtle, not panic. Not regret. Just surprise. Like I was the one acting irrational. She even laughed a little, like this was some kind of game I was playing. Then she tried calling me. I watched my phone buzz from across the bed in my motel room. No picture. No ringtone. Just her name, floating there like a threat. Linnea, wife. I didn't answer. I just stared at it, wondering how someone can say, I love you, every day and still disappear without leaving a footprint. She stood on the porch for a full 7 minutes. Tried the door again. Sat down on the top step. Scrolled through her phone. Smiled at something she saw. God knows what. A meme? A message? A memory? She didn't look worried. She looked annoyed. I couldn't take it. I drove away before I did something stupid like run across the street and scream at her for pretending like everything was fine. For acting like she hadn't deleted 24 hours from our marriage without warning or explanation. But I didn't go far. Just a few blocks over. Parked behind the old church where we once slow danced alone after a wedding. I put my head on the steering wheel and told myself not to cry. I still did. Then, something inside me flipped. What if she planned this? What if this wasn't a breakdown or a mistake, but a test? What if she wanted to see if I'd still be waiting when she wandered back in like a cat who didn't know how to stay loyal to a door? And what if that bag she brought back wasn't hers? Because here's the thing, I'd seen that bag before. Not in our house, but on Instagram. In a photo I wish I'd never remembered. It was navy blue, worn leather, creased near the zipper, a scratch on the left corner like a dog had once pawed it in frustration. I stared at that bag through the motel window for all of 10 seconds, but I knew. I knew with the kind of certainty that kicks your stomach into your throat. Linnea didn't own that bag, but I knew who did. You know how people post too much on Instagram and forget they've built timelines for stalkers to reverse engineer? That's what happened here. 6 months ago, we went to a party hosted by her former grad school friends. I didn't want to go. I never fit in with her high-achieving, wine-sipping, TED Talk quoting tribe. But I went because she asked. Because she wore that green dress I liked. Because I was still trying. That's where I met him. His name was Rowan. He had a beard that made him look falsely wise and a voice like NPR poured over ice. He wore desert boots indoors. He called himself a social clarity coach, which I still think is just a scammy way of saying, I talk at broken people until they pay me to feel better. He and Linnea talked the entire night. Not flirtatiously, just intensely. Eyes locked, knees angled toward each other, whole world vanished. I made 3 jokes at that party. None of them landed. I left early. She stayed. Weeks later, I asked about him. She said, Rowan's harmless. He's a walking philosophy quote. But that night, on his story, public, for some reason, he posted a photo. Late night decompress with my favorite human. It said, 2 wine glasses, 1 book, and that same navy blue bag in the background, half zipped on his couch. I remembered it because I hate myself for noticing things like that. The bag had a ridiculous brass keychain shaped like a narwhal. Who carries a narwhal around unless it means something? Now Linnea had that bag. In our house. After disappearing for 24 hours. No explanation. No toothbrush. No panties. But that bag. I did something I wasn't proud of next. I made a burner Instagram. Fake name. No posts. No followers. Just one goal. Follow Rowan and see if anything slipped. His stories were private now. But his posts weren't. The last one. From 2 days ago. A blurry picture of a window with rain streaks. Caption, the quiet before the mirror cracks. That could mean anything. Or it could mean he's an insufferable poet trying to be profound. But one comment caught my eye. Just one. From an account with no profile picture. A single heart emoji. Not her name. Not a tag. Just a red heart. But I clicked it anyway. The account was locked. No bio. No posts. But the handle? At Ellen June. Linnea's middle name is June. And she once told me, back when she still confessed things, that she made a burner to follow accounts she didn't want her coworkers seeing. I felt sick. Not just because it was her. Not just because she was sloppy. But because I knew she'd never expect me to connect these dots. She thinks I'm the safe one. The soft one. The husband who forgives before the lie is finished leaving her lips. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Not until I knew exactly what happened during those 24 hours. And the first place I planned to look? Rowan's apartment. Because if she left something behind, anything personal, I'd find it. And I'd bring it home. Let her feel what it's like to stare at a piece of her own betrayal sitting on our kitchen counter. I didn't go to Rowan's apartment that night. I wanted to. God, I wanted to, but I didn't know his exact address. All I had was the neighborhood from the party months ago, and the vague memory of a blue-painted Victorian near a crooked lamppost. I couldn't risk showing up like some deranged husband with blood in his eyes and no proof. So instead, I stayed in the motel and rewatched her lie. Yeah, I recorded her. I set up a camera in the corner of our living room weeks ago, hidden inside an old router shell. She thought I threw it away after we upgraded the Wi-Fi. I didn't. I gutted it and tucked in a motion-triggered camera I bought online. I know how that sounds. But sometimes when the truth refuses to show up, you have to trap it. I watched the footage on my laptop. Fast-forwarded to 7:42 p.m., the moment she came home, knocking like a stranger. I watched her try the door. Knock again. Call my name. I muted the audio for a moment just to study her face. No fear. No guilt. Just mild confusion. Like she misplaced her favorite hoodie, not her husband. Then she pulled out her phone. I paused and zoomed in. It wasn't her usual case, the one with the sunflower sticker. This one was black, smooth, unfamiliar. New phone. Burner phone. She typed something. I switched to the next angle, the hallway camera. She stepped inside 5 minutes later after using her key. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaken. She was humming. I swear to God, she was humming. I turned the volume up and rewound. She was humming Bittersweet Symphony. You don't hum Bittersweet Symphony unless you're feeling poetic about pain. And you sure as hell don't do it when you've just traumatized your spouse by going radio silent for an entire day. She set the bag down by the door, took off her jacket, checked her reflection in the mirror, and smiled. Not a glad-to-be-home smile. A smirk. That kind of half-smile people give themselves when they think they got away with something. Then, and here's the part that broke me in a way I didn't know I could break. She went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out my leftover Thai food, and ate it. That's it. No note. No apology. No attempt to contact me. She just sat on the couch, pulled a blanket over her lap, and started watching Love is Blind like nothing happened. You want to know what betrayal sounds like? It doesn't always scream or sob or slam doors. Sometimes it sounds like a fork scraping the bottom of a takeout container while your wife watches reality TV with someone else's scent still in her hair. I closed the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the wall. I just stared at the motel ceiling and whispered one sentence over and over until I fell asleep. She didn't even look for me. The next morning, I made a plan. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. I called in sick to work using a voice that didn't sound like mine. Then I drove back to the neighborhood where that party had been. Took side streets. Circled blocks. Looked for the blue Victorian and the crooked lamppost. Found it. And parked 2 houses down. I waited 5 hours in that car. At exactly 3:12 p.m., Rowan stepped out of the house. He was alone. He was barefoot. And he was wearing the hoodie I gave Linnea last Christmas. I didn't get out of the car right away. I should have. I should have stormed across the street, banged on the door, dragged him outside, and demanded to know why he was wearing my hoodie. The gray one with the faded elbow patch and the stitched initials she added one Christmas when we still exchanged gifts without thinking twice. But I didn't move. Because as soon as Rowan stepped outside, barefoot and stretching like a man who hadn't been alone in that house, he turned and called inside. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw his hand gesture. That lazy, familiar wave people make when they're calling someone they're comfortable with. Not urgent, not polite, just casual intimacy. No one answered. He shrugged, pulled his phone out, and lit a cigarette. Then walked around the side of the house, maybe to take a call. I used that moment. Got out of my car. Crossed the street. My heart pounded like it was trying to warn me. I ignored it. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside Rowan's house like it had been waiting for me. It smelled like cedar wood and something faintly floral, and I swear, under it all, a note of her perfume. Not the one she wore to work. The one she wore on date nights. Vanilla, with a sharp citrus twist. That scent lived in our bedroom. Now it lived here. The hallway was dim, walls lined with books stacked instead of shelved. His place looked like a curated identity crisis. Half therapist's office, half art studio. I passed a small mirror near the stairs and saw myself for the first time in days. Hollow eyes. Same hoodie I'd worn for 3 nights straight. A man people would cross the street to avoid. The first thing I noticed out of place was the mug. On the side table near the couch, her mug. Our mug. From that bed and breakfast in Vermont. The one we bought during our 3rd anniversary. It had a stupid hand-painted fox and a chipped lip from when I dropped it 2 years ago. I knew that chip. I traced it with my thumb 1,000 times during Sunday mornings when she read, and I made eggs we never finished. Why the hell was it here? Then I saw the journal. She always kept one, not for deep thoughts, just lists. Linnea's mind never shut off, so she wrote to silence it. I recognized the yellow tabs sticking out. Page after page of random scribbles, meal plans, video ideas, even a sketch of a tattoo she never got. It was lying open. Rowan had no reason to have this. I should have taken it, snatched it, left, vanished before he came back. But I didn't, because right as I reached for it, I heard something upstairs. Floorboards. Not heavy, not footsteps. Just movement. A shift, like someone was adjusting their weight. I froze. Then, silence. I backed away, breath caught in my throat, and scanned the room for cameras. I don't know why I thought of that. Maybe because I had one. Maybe because betrayal makes you paranoid in smart ways. Or maybe because I'd already crossed the line into a place where reason didn't live anymore. I didn't see any cameras. Just books, candles, scattered Polaroids taped to the fridge. I moved closer, and that's when I saw it. A Polaroid of Linnea, smiling, barefoot, wearing my t-shirt, the gray one I hadn't been able to find for weeks, standing in front of Rowan's record player, holding up a peace sign. Date stamped, 5 days ago. 5 days. So this wasn't about a single night. This wasn't a 24-hour moment of weakness. This was a pattern. This was established. Practiced. Hidden in plain sight. The knock on the door made me jump. Not Rowan. Not Linnea. Police. Two of them. One man, one woman. Calm but alert. "Sir," the woman said, hand on her belt. "We received a call about a possible break-in. Are you the owner of this residence?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I should have said I was the owner. I should have lied. I should have made something up on the spot, like, "Yeah, I'm house sitting for my cousin while he's in Iceland," or "We're Airbnb hosts. I'm just cleaning up." Anything. But I froze. My mouth opened, and all that came out was a wheeze of air, like my body was still trying to process the photo of my wife wearing my t-shirt in someone else's life. The cops looked at each other. The man stepped forward. "Sir, I'm going to ask you again. Do you have permission to be inside this home?" I nodded, then shook my head, then said the dumbest sentence I've ever said in my life. "My wife's cheating on me." That's my mug. Not exactly a confession, but not something innocent people say when standing in a stranger's house holding a stolen journal. They didn't cuff me, but they told me to step outside. They asked for ID. I gave it to them. The officer ran it and confirmed I wasn't dangerous, just misplaced. They didn't ask why I knew the front door would be unlocked. They didn't press charges. They didn't even go inside. Because Rowan wasn't home, and Linnea had already called them. They didn't say it, but I could tell. The female officer softened the moment I said my wife's name. Not in a pitying way, in a rehearsed way. Like she'd heard it before. Like she'd been briefed. They let me go. Warned me not to return. Told me, quote, "If there's something going on between you and your wife, take it through legal channels, not through someone else's living room." As if betrayal was supposed to be settled in court. I drove back to the motel in silence. No music. No thoughts. Just one single sentence echoing in my skull like a fire alarm. She got to them first. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what I saw, but because of what I hadn't. The photo of her in the t-shirt was old, 5 days, according to the timestamp. But she'd only disappeared for 24 hours. That meant she'd been there before. Multiple times. Probably while I was at work. Probably while I was running errands for the house. We were both pretending still mattered. She planned that 24-hour vanishing act. It wasn't impulsive. It was staged. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized. She wanted me to notice the missing underwear. The toothbrush. The mug. The clues. All of it. She left the door cracked just enough for me to find my way to Rowan's house. Like a trail of breadcrumbs leading to humiliation. But why? To provoke me? To push me into doing something she could legally use against me? Or worse, to test me? Back at the motel, I opened the journal I'd taken. Yeah, I took it. Slid it under my jacket when the cops weren't looking. And I don't regret it. Most of it was boring. Grocery lists. Books to read. Reminders to cancel her old gym membership. But one page made my blood go still. It was a list titled, "If he ever finds out." 5 bullet points. Act shocked. Blame emotional distance. Cry, but not too much. Mention therapy. Flip it. That's all it said. 5 neat lines of warfare written in my wife's handwriting. Like I was a game she'd been preparing to lose without actually forfeiting. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the ceiling until morning. And then I made a new plan. If she wanted a villain in her story, I'd give her one. Not loud. Not violent. Just undeniable. Something she couldn't explain away with tears and scripts and half-truths. She thought the game ended when I walked out. She had no idea I'd started keeping score. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I didn't show up at her work or text her 10 paragraphs at 3 a.m. like I used to when I couldn't sleep without her. No, I became polite, distant, and completely, utterly civil. Because nothing terrifies someone more than when the person they were prepared to argue with refuses to fight. The morning after I found her if he ever finds out list, I checked out of the motel. Left the key on the nightstand next to the wrapped bar of soap and the water cup full of my regret. I didn't leave a mess. I didn't slam the door. I cleaned up like I'd never been there. Then I went home. Yes, home. The house she walked back into like it was still hers. The door was locked. I had keys. I used them. She was in the kitchen, pouring almond milk into her coffee. The kind she always said was too expensive when I bought it, but somehow started showing up in our fridge more often the less we spoke. She didn't jump when she saw me. Didn't ask where I'd been. Just said, "Hey." I said it back. I told her I needed to grab a few things. Clothes, my laptop charger, the rest of my camera gear. She nodded, sipped, stared, but not once did she ask me what I knew. That's how I knew she knew I knew. I moved through the house like a ghost, collected my things, checked for my name on the mortgage papers she kept in the drawer, still there. Checked our joint account, untouched. Checked the hallway drawer for the spare phone I'd hidden months ago just in case I ever needed to monitor her location. Still there, still paired, still syncing. She had no idea. That night, I went somewhere I hadn't been in years, my old friend Declan's apartment. He owed me. I once loaned him $5,000 when his startup collapsed, and I never asked for it back. Now I did. Not in money, in privacy. Declan's a cybersecurity consultant. Quiet. Paranoid. Exactly the kind of guy you want when you need to watch without being seen. I told him everything. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just facts. Cold, clinical, with the kind of tone that made him stop cracking jokes and start listening. Over the next 2 days, he helped me do 3 things. Clone her cloud. Every photo, every note, every document. She'd never logged out of the laptop I bought her. I had full admin access. She didn't even encrypt the backups. All of it came to me. Map her phone history, location logs, deleted messages, Wi-Fi connections, and a strange number saved under the name Mel Nails, a number that led not to a salon, but to a private co-working space where Rowan often hosted emotional wellness intensives. Recover the deleted messages. That's where the real decay lived. Not the photos, not the location pins, but the words she thought she erased. The flirty text messages, the complaints about me, the jokes at my expense, the same jokes I once used to make her laugh. They'd become punchlines for someone else's amusement. One thread stood out. From 3 weeks ago. Rowan, what if he finds out? Linnea, he won't. He never pays attention. Rowan, and if he does? Linnea, then I'll just say I was lonely and confused, and he'll fold like always. Fold like always. She knew my weaknesses better than I did, and she was counting on them to protect her. So I did the one thing she never expected. I didn't fold. I met with a lawyer. A quiet one. Young, sharp, used to dealing with intellectual property and marital asset disputes. I gave him everything. Copies of the messages, timelines, phone data, proof of premeditation. He was impressed. Said I had more than most clients who walk in mid-breakdown looking for vengeance. I told him I wasn't looking for vengeance. Just clarity. And then I filed. Not for divorce. Not yet. For separation of financial assets. Linnea always handled the bills, the auto payments, the budgeting. She thought I was too disorganized for numbers. But I was never dumb. Just trusting. Not anymore. The paperwork went through. She wouldn't know until next Tuesday, when the auto pay on her personal credit card would bounce and the joint card would show her name removed. That would be the first domino. The second? I left her a note. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just taped to the fridge. You always said I never pay attention. I just wanted you to know I finally did. M. And then I left. Again. Not to a motel this time. But somewhere quieter. Somewhere she couldn't find me. Because I wasn't done yet. She didn't call right away. That surprised me. I thought she'd at least fire off a dramatic voice note. Something along the lines of, "What the hell is this?" Or, "We need to talk." But nothing. Not for 2 full days. Radio silence from the same woman who once texted me 3 times in 1 minute because I forgot to buy oat milk. Then Tuesday came. And so did the message. Just one. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her. Not because I wanted her to spiral. But because I had nothing left to say. Nothing that would make her see it differently. Nothing that would untangle the choices she made long before I ever noticed the missing toothbrush. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't waiting in parking lots or watching through windows like a man with no options. I had moved into a small apartment downtown. Exposed brick, quiet neighbors, enough light in the morning to remind me I was still capable of starting over. The morning after her message, I sat on the floor with a coffee I made myself. No arguments about which beans I bought. No passive-aggressive notes about dish towels. Just silence. Peaceful. Earned. She knocked once. I didn't expect that. Not after all this time. But there she was, on the other side of my door, wearing the same hoodie I once told her looked better on her than on me. Hair tied back. No makeup. Eyes red. Not from crying, from exhaustion. I opened the door. Didn't invite her in. Just waited. She held up the journal. The one I'd stolen. The one that held her 5-point strategy for surviving discovery. I think you forgot this, she said softly. I didn't forget it, I replied. She looked down. I never meant to hurt you, she added. And for the first time, I believed her. But meaning nothing means nothing if you do it anyway. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I didn't demand answers she'd spent weeks rehearsing. I just said, I forgive you, but I'm not coming back. She stood there for a long time, waiting for the version of me that begged, that cracked, that collapsed. But that man wasn't home anymore. Before she left, she asked me one question. Why didn't you fight for me? I smiled. Not bitter, not smug, just calm. Because I finally realized I was always the only one fighting. She didn't reply, just nodded, walked away, quiet steps down the hallway. And as the door closed behind her, I felt something loosen in my chest that had been stuck there for years. That night, I slept with the window open. No noise machines, no white noise, just the wind, the city, and a silence that didn't feel lonely anymore. I didn't get revenge. I didn't destroy her. I just walked away. And somehow, that felt louder than anything I could have screamed.